Hey guys, welcome to the vlog. Welcome to the Accent Studio. I'm for today already done making music, another album song that I don't want to really share with you yet because I'm still in the process of trying to figure it out, but I'm getting there. So today it's time for part 2 of DJing with vinyl. Yesterday we talked about the practical things, how heavy it is, how it can get scratched, how expensive it is, that you can't get all of the songs nowadays. Today it will be all about the technical things. So how did people 5, 6, 7 years ago actually DJ exclusively with vinyl? There are a lot of techniques that are today just by the price of a button available. Back then, big trouble, but let me try and explain everything about it.
You want me, but the way you show it is hardly.
So first up, when it comes to technical things, is of course beat matching. Beat matching is for both records finding the same speed. The one that is playing to the crowd has, for example, 100 BPM, the other one maybe 105. Then you have to decrease the speed on the one that is faster to match them, get the same speed and align the kicks on top of each other to beat match. Very simple, most basic DJ technique every DJ needs to know about. And that's where the problem starts with the Denon media players or the Pioneer stuff. Once you've figured out the tempo and both songs are in sync, they stay in sync forever because that's how precise they are. They do not wobble, there is no change, there is no air, no vibrations, nothing is interfering with the speed of a song. So it plays constantly. Two songs that are matched forever. You don't have to readjust it. With vinyl, it's a whole different game because first of all, not all of them are really flat. Sometimes you're unlucky and you get a copy that is a little bent. Some of them are lighter, just 100 grams. Some of them are heavier. So they spin a little different. Plus the turntable actually, and that was the most important part of a turntable, to have high torque right away when you start it. And also to be consistent. In German, it's called Gleichlaufschwankung. I don't know what it's called in English, but it's the percentage. It differs in RPMs. So it could be plus minus 0.5, 0.25, which was already really good. But it still differs. So after 1 minute, matched songs, they would start to shift away. And that's also why you will see a lot of DJs back then either touching the vinyl here on top and pushing it a little bit to speed it up, or some actually use the room to push it or slow it down. Some also just touch the vinyl slightly and pushed it or slowed it down. This was the technique to get it back in sync again. It's the same as you do today. You push it a little, you stop it a little. But back then you always had the risk that the needle would actually jump. So touching the record player was always risky. So you had to do it really just a tiny bit. And there was no pitch lock like these. They lock the pitch. So if you slow it down or up, the pitch doesn't change. With vinyl, if you slow it up or down, the pitch changes and you can actually hear it. So you had to do it not really fast. Just a tiny bit. So back then when I was beat matching, every 10 to 15 seconds, I had to speed one record up or to slow it down to match them again. So you were constantly just occupied with matching the records while you were transitioning. And while you were not transitioning, you were digging through your vinyl trying to find the next song, which takes a lot longer than just pushing the touchscreen, typing in the next song you search for, or maybe even have a playlist already available. But there's actually one thing that is a lot harder and then that a lot of people don't even think of nowadays, because you have the players that show you the BPM. You just the pitch fader up and down until you hit the right BPM and that's it. No one is actually doing it nowadays anymore by hearing, and that's the tricky part. Because you have your headphones, you either have one song on one ear and what is playing outside on the other ear, and have then to hear for the change between one kick and another. That's a milliseconds game to know which of the two songs is actually slower, which is faster, and by how much you actually have to speed up or slow down the next track. So while you were not beat matching and not trying to find the right record, you were trying to figure out how fast or how much faster or slower one track was than the other, and then adjusting it, of course, with the pitch fader. Back then, most record players had ±8, maybe ±10. Nowadays, these ones go to ±50, and the media players, I mean, they go up to 100 plus and minus, which doesn't sound good anymore. It's not really usable. And like also back then, the ±8 was actually enough. You had to plan a little ahead and pick the right songs and the right tempos. So mixing 100 BPM with 130 was just not possible. You then either had to cut it, to scratch it, or just implement 2 or 3 songs in between to actually get up to that speed. For example, on the new players, you have cue points. You can set up cue points ahead. That wasn't possible back then. So for example, here on this record, there's a sticker. So I know that exactly here on the first groove, where the first sound is, that's where you have like the first beat that you could scratch, that you could start beat matching. These stickers were necessary. Without them, it was a lot harder to actually play. Stickers were the cue points back then. Also with stickers, if you were really smart, you could place a sticker on a certain groove, maybe at the end of a song. And if you placed it perfectly and you were lucky that like the time it took for this one groove to spin once was exact in beat, you could actually loop. So the needle would get to that groove, touch the sticker would push it back one groove ahead again, it would spin again and get pushed again, and this way you could create a loop. But this was really, really sketchy, because sometimes it could happen that the needle touches the sticker and then just flies off, and you get this like huge scratch that everyone in the club hears, and which really damages your ear. So the more viable option to loop was actually buying the same record twice, which makes looping really expensive and really rare. I personally did it maybe once or twice live in front of people back in the days where I was really, really skilled and trained, and I trained every day for an hour. I was able to do it, but only, of course, with the songs where I had 2 copies of. So if one song playing, let me try. I'm like sure I won't be able to do it, maybe without the sound. So you put the crossfader so that it switches the song immediately, really fast. So the one copy here is spinning. You spin the other one back without it being open, without people being able to hear it. Switch the crossfader, let it play, and the same time switch this one back, and like this was basically the movement, and you had to do it like really fast, like maybe, yeah, around this speed. And the worst was the needle would jump, like very likely jump. And you have to aim for spinning it back the exact amount, so you have to train it. You have to know how long the loop is in that groove. So just spinning it back one turn might be too much or too little. So you have to learn by heart if it's like 3/4 or maybe 1.5 spins to be back in that loop. And then this way, repeat it. It was crazy. Like really, really crazy. So looping was really rare. No one actually used it. Effects back then, some people used it. Some mixers started to implement effects, but the effects sounded really, really shitty, like really bad flanger effects and stuff like that. So yeah, you were occupied by finding the right songs, finding the tempo, aligning them, keeping them aligned, switching with the crossfader or line faders and a little bit of EQing, and then actually finding the next song. So it was never ever boring. That was what I loved actually about playing with vinyl. You were, for the 2-hour set, 3-4 hour set, you were in the zone, like just trying to keep the music up. Nowadays, one song, click, 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 beat match, transition, playing around with effects unnecessarily, next song, and you have like 4 minutes in between to drink something. And I think that's also one of the main reasons why mixing, especially in big room and like festival kind of music, got a lot faster. Back then you played the entire song and just used the intro outro to transition, and nowadays you basically mash up the songs, like 1 minute here, 20 seconds there, next song, next song, next song. I don't want to judge, that's like really up to you what you prefer. Things are moving on. I I'm really happy about the new stuff. I'm personally loving DJing with the Denon stuff here. Pioneer is also really great. So I sometimes miss some things about vinyl, but all in all, the new technology is definitely more handy, more fun. And it takes out a little bit the technical aspect, like just keeping the beat matching up. It's now basically done for you. And this way you have more time to be more precise and do other things. Unfortunately, some people just use it to scream into the mic and use way too many effects, but that's a whole nother story. There's one more thing I want to mention, and that is actually the scratching. Scratching on vinyl still today sounds a million times better, a million times better. If you put one song up here, one here, and you scratch it here and on the record, it sounds so much better. The players sound very artificial, all of them. It just sounds like crap if you compare it to real scratching. So if you do scratching, if you are a hip-hop DJ or turntablism is your thing, then maybe get some vinyls. I mean, it just sounds so much better. Even Traktor, Serato, and this kind of stuff, they can't keep up with that. They still emulate it. There is nothing that sounds better than real scratching. I think that's it. I think I got everything covered. It was really a lot harder back then. I think if you would ask me nowadays to make like 1 hour real vinyl set, I would need to prepare at least a week. Like really, it's something you have to train. Nowadays with the players, I don't practice that much, to be honest, because it's really not necessary. But with vinyl, every day, half an hour to an hour, just to keep up the flow and like learning the songs by heart, because you couldn't really see the waveform. All of this was really important back then. I hope I didn't forget any points. If I did, just let me know down below in the comments, the technical hard things about DJing with vinyl. If you're interested to start DJing with vinyl, or if it's really nothing for you and you just have respect for people that still do it. Tomorrow, back here in the studio, a full vlog, because we have to listen to the worst track submits. That's like a little competition where you guys try to create the worst song on this planet. I already listened to like 4 or 5, and let me just say, mission accomplished. It was really painful to my ears. So tune in tomorrow if you want to suffer a little. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Sign out.
It's the phantom of a courtship.